David is in San Francisco, but he's just learned about a researcher who's doing work that is relevant to his interest.
Neuroradiology, Dr. Charles's office.
Yes, my name is David Brown. I'm very anxious to speak to Dr. Charles. It's extremely important.
Well, he's not in yet. Are you a patient?
No, I'm not, but I have a highly unusual synaptic dysfunction which occurs sporadically, and I'm convinced that Dr. Charles's research on gamma rays and neuropsychology can help me.
Well, I'm sorry, sir, but Dr. Charles is leaving this afternoon for a lecture tour in Europe.
If David can catch the next flight out, he should be able to get to Chicago in time to talk to the doctor. He ends up on Columbia Flight 14. I'll bet it's a 747. First, let's meet our co-pilot and head stewardess. Don't look at me that way. It was their official title. It's not like I made it up.
It's going to be all right. Don't worry.
That's a little more of both of them than I wanted to meet.
Stephanie, I wouldn't ask you to do this with me unless I was positive we were going to be successful.
I know. The whole thing just worries me a lot. You can understand that, can't you?
Sure.
Phil, what's that for?
That's just a precaution.
They always say that. None of them can admit they're compensating. She should already know what he's compensating for.
This is the drug. Now, do you remember the whole routine? If you have any questions, you better ask me now.
No, I remember.
You've got nothing to worry about. By tomorrow, we're going to be knee-deep in caviar on some yacht in the Mediterranean.
An exhibit of King Tut's artifacts is also being shipped on the plane, and it's their target. We've met Sandra Curry in Kolchak the Night Stalker, Voyagers, and Misfits of Science. She's a thoroughly accomplished character actor to this day. This is the first time we've seen Edward Power, but he'll be back in season 4.
Excuse me, this is my first time flying. Hey, can you tell me what seat this is?
This is 20A and B. See, it shows you right up there.
Oh, yeah. And I'm, 20C. Small world.
So much for talking to the pretty lady. He'll talk to the super smart teenager instead. The boy's name is Kevin. Our first-time flyer is Mr. Leggett. David is sitting with a couple who's celebrating their 34th anniversary with a second honeymoon. My wife and I wouldn't be able to do that because we never got a first one.
Flight to disaster. Oh, that's encouraging. Is it any good?
It's okay. The technical stuff is all wrong.
Oh, yeah? How do you know?
I learned all about jets when I used to go up on my dad's private one. But my folks are split up now. My dad left my mom.
I left him.
They just saw each other again.
So she's single, and she's still not interested in talking to him. They're in the air, so it's time to put the plan in motion. First step, Stephanie serves coffee to the crew. 2 of the 3 cups have a little something extra. That looks an awful lot like the stuff I got addicted to in my teens. And if it is, she just gave the pilot and navigator a dose that could kill them. But it's worse than that.
Yes.
Hi, honey. How are you doing?
Oh, okay. It's been pretty busy.
You got some coffee for us?
Yes, I was just getting it ready. Phil, I'm just...
You bring it right on up. We're counting on you.
Turns out our honeymooner dude is even more of an opportunist than I am. He didn't feel like waiting for the drink cart, and besides, this is a bigger cup.
Excuse me. I'm sorry, but I'm a little concerned that you may have some coffee that was meant for one of the other passengers. Well, it had some medicine in it. I was just about to take it to them when you grabbed it. You haven't had any yet, have you?
I could say so. I just finished it. Tasted all right to me, though. You sure it was in this cup?
I thought so, maybe not.
What kind of medicine was it?
Oh, just a vitamin supplement.
Then why is she so concerned? A fella his age can probably use the vitamins.
You know, Kevin, I have to make a confession. There's something about flying that's always terrified me.
What's that, Mr. Leggett?
Being in the air.
There's nothing to worry about. Aerodynamics is a sound principle. In fact, the lift ratio on this jet is better than on many smaller planes.
Is that so?
Right, because there's more surface area on the wings.
When I saw the name Brandon Cruz as Kevin, I knew I should know that name. Bill Bixby's previous hit series was The Courtship of Eddie's Father. Well, that's Eddie several years later. Besides acting, he's been very active in music and was the frontman for the Dead Kennedys for a while. Last report I could find, he's touring with a band called Dr. No. Right now, he's helping Mr. Leggett cope. Later, he'll be helping David with stuff, and that had to be fun. He said Bill Bixby was not only his acting mentor, but his best friend. I'm also getting the feeling that he likes Mr. Leggett and thinks his mom should take another look.
Mrs. McIntyre,
Yes.
is your husband all right?
Oh, yes. He's just resting.
But he was wide awake a few moments ago. Must have been the medicine in the coffee.
Oh, I doubt it. This man can fall asleep anywhere, anytime. It's all right.
David isn't so sure. He quietly checks Mr. McIntyre's pulse in his pupils, and this is no catnap. Stephanie has doctored another cup, delivered the coffee to the cabin crew, and the pilot and navigator are unconscious. Phil is in full control.
Denver Center, this is Columbia 14. We're experiencing a slight problem with cabin pressurization at our present altitude. Request permission to descend to 14,000 feet to check it out.
Columbia 14, you may proceed to 140.
Why 14,000 feet? A couple of reasons. After they have the artifacts, they can parachute from that altitude, especially after he reduces their speed. Also, several of the mountains in Colorado are taller than 14,000 feet, so if the pilots don't wake up to cover their getaway, he'll just set the plane to fly into one of them. They only have one problem.
May I help you?
Yes, the cup of coffee you took from Mr. McIntyre. Did you ever find out what was in it?
A vitamin supplement, like I said before.
No, the man is out cold in the seat next to me, and it didn't take him very long to get there. Now, I'd like to talk to the passenger whose medication that was.
I really don't think that is necessary.
I do.
I'm sorry, sir. I cannot...
Miss, look, you and I could go around in circles over this forever. I'd like to speak to the captain. I'd like to speak to him right now.
The captain is indisposed right now. Please leave a message after the snore. Good thing his jacket fits Phil reasonably well.
What seems to be the trouble?
The gentleman in the seat next to me has been drugged.
What? How?
Well, he accidentally picked up a cup of coffee that your flight attendant put some medication in.
Are you a doctor?
Yes, I am. Now, did any of you have any of that coffee?
Yes, we have, but we're fine. It must have been just that one cup. Now, have you administered any first aid to this man?
No, I didn't want to do anything until I'd spoken to you.
Good. I wonder if you could come with me. I could use your help.
All right, sure.
Don't you hate it how a coffee snatcher sitting next to a doctor has the potential to ruin your whole day? He lures David down to the hold where he says there's a complete first aid kit.
Yeah, it's too dark in here. I can't see a thing. You want to try?
All right.
It's a large white kit.
What are you doing?
There's no use yelling. Nobody up there's going to hear you.
David has to watch while Phil prepares the parachutes and starts packing the Egyptian items into a duffel bag. He doesn't have a clue how to deal with these things. That red cloth was there for a reason. We'll watch him put his bare hands all over these things, juggle them around. If any of them come out undamaged, I'll be surprised. And if he already had a buyer lined up for this stuff, I'd be so shocked I'd think I'd been hit by lightning.
Is everything all right?
Everything's just fine. Our curious friend is all packaged up. A few more minutes. How's our pilot?
Still unconscious. We're over Aspen. Do you have the parachutes?
Yeah, everything's going according to schedule.
Please hurry. Fremont Pass isn't much beyond Aspen.
Stephanie! I'll be up in a few minutes.
She's a flight attendant. They're accustomed to talking about places. But he says it's too bad David heard that. Phil can't take the chance that he'll be able to tell someone. He still assumes the flight crew will wake up in time to keep the plane from crashing.
You're going to land a little sooner than the rest of us.
What are you doing?
What does it look like he's doing? He's pushing you out of the plane. David may be getting a little anxious. Everything on a 747 operates by hydraulic power. The only questions are what that line goes to and how bad it's going to be. Okay, there is one other question. How big is the lump on Phil's head? Mr. Leggett is feeling airsick. Once again, Kevin to the rescue.
Here, try putting a little cold water on your face, too.
The Hulk has no idea where he is or how to get out of it. May as well try the stairs.
Anybody there?
I can't beat that. After a second peek, he returns to his seat and tells Kevin, "You won't believe me. I promise you won't believe me."
Big and green.
I told you wouldn't believe me.
He was green all over?
Yeah. All over. Even his hair.
Boy.
Kevin, why?
Oh, stop being such a grown-up, Mom. Kevin has read enough that he realizes anything is possible. He may also have heard of the Hulk, though that won't come up, and Jack McGee isn't in this episode. Mr. Leggett insists there's something down there.
If it'll make you feel better, I'll go check the hold myself, okay?
Thank you.
There's something down there, all right, but it's not big and green anymore.
Who is that? What are you doing down here?
Help me with the door. How do you close it?
Come on.
I tried, but I couldn't get the hatch closed.
The switch is over here. Hold on to me. What happened here?
He tried to kill me. I had to knock him out.
Why would he even bring you down here?
Because I discovered that he and the other flight stewardess had drugged one of the passengers in the flight crew.
I'm afraid she understands, David. Try to be more confusing.
What are you talking about?
Look, they were going to steal some of the Egyptian artifacts and bail out together. Now, this man has a possible concussion, and we have to get him to a hospital as soon as this plane lands.
What did you hit him with?
Well, considering he was trying to push me out the cargo door, I hit him with anything that I could.
Well, technically, he hit him with the wall. She doesn't need to know that. Even he would have to admit he's throwing a lot at her at once. If she gets out of this, she needs to march into her supervisor's office and demand a very large pay raise.
I don't believe any of this. I'm calling the captain.
Well, don't let me stop you.
Phil, what's taking you so long? Stephanie, this is Denise. I'm in the hold. I'd like to speak to the captain, please.
She wasn't sure what to think when he told her to go ahead. Now she's thinking extremely large pay raise.
Bill! Stephanie, what's happening?
I think that's pretty obvious.
Stephanie.
What did you put in their coffee?
I don't know.
Now listen to me. I need your help. What did you put in their coffee?
Cab something.
Capital?
Yes, that's it, Capitrol.
Capitrol is a real drug, but it's an antibacterial that has nothing to do with sleep or unconsciousness. In pre-internet days, nobody would have known that, including me. Her idiot boyfriend didn't tell her how much to give them, so she estimates she gave them 5 or 6 apiece.
It might interest you to know that your plan wouldn't have worked even if I hadn't been on this flight.
What do you mean?
The amount of drugs you gave to each one of these men, they never would have awakened in time to land this plane. Now, everyone out there is going to die unless we find a pilot.
Where's Phil?
In the hold, unconscious.
Oh, my God.
David, there's no one left to land this plane.
I know.
As if we don't know it's going to fall to David.
Mayday, Mayday. Denver Center, this is Columbia 14, Mayday.
Denver Center, this is Columbia 14. Do you read?
Mayday, Mayday. Denver Center, this is Columbia 14, Mayday.
This is Denver Center, Columbia 14. Go ahead.
We have an emergency situation aboard. Our flight crew has been drugged. We are without a pilot.
Our man gets on a separate phone and calls for a qualified pilot to help him now. First things first, they check fuel and other basics.
Is the crew permanently disabled?
I'm a passenger. I'm a doctor. I just examined the flight crew, and, well, I would have to say, based on their heart rate, respiration, they will be unconscious for approximately 6 hours.
I copy, 14. Are you a pilot?
No. The automatic pilot is on.
Contrary to what a lot of people thought and what the airplane movie tried to tell us, an automatic pilot of the time didn't steer the plane on a certain course. It kept the plane going in a straight line. That's it. It doesn't seem like much, but when you have a 9-hour flight going that-a-way, using a stick to hold things in place beats the heck out of holding the wheel all that time. The next step is to see if there's a pilot on board, but he'll need to be delicate about this.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your pilot speaking. If there are any qualified pilots aboard, I'd like to extend an invitation for you to come up to the cockpit now and see some new developments in the workings of a 747. Thank you.
Do we even need to speculate who's going to show up?
I'm not a pilot yet, but I want to be. Hey, where are the real pilots? You don't have any?
Columbia 14, have you located a pilot yet?
No, I'm afraid not. There are no pilots on board.
Kevin isn't a pilot, but as he said, he knows a lot about these things because his dad has one. There's no other option. David slips into the pilot's chair. Our controller has a pilot next to him, and he'll talk David down.
The 747 is the best aircraft ever built and the easiest to fly. Not much more trouble than driving your old car.
You know, it's amazing he's right. My car dashboard looks just like that. It's one of the dozen reasons I hate to drive.
Listen carefully, David. Now, the first thing I want you to do is find the altimeter and the airspeed indicator and tell me what they read.
The altimeter and the airspeed indicator, where are they?
It's that one and that one.
Don't worry, it won't be much longer before Kevin takes the co-pilot seat. They have to adjust the autopilot to steer around some mountains. David keeps asking Denise where things are, and Kevin keeps answering. They have him disengage the autopilot, steer around another mountain, and they can see Denver.
Good. Now, get your gear down, just like I told you. Let me know when it's locked. You're over the outer marker now, David. 5 miles from the end of the runway, passing through 1,500 feet. Let me know when the gear's locked, and we'll get you on the glide slope.
At the airport, which at this time would have been Stapleton, they've scrambled all the emergency crews. That's nothing unusual. Any kind of emergency, and airports scramble everything because until the plane is on the ground, you don't know what you'll need. As with many things in life, it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. They've slowed the landing speed, but there's a problem.
Now look at the ILS crosshair and tell me what you see.
I think we're below the glide slope.
That's right, you are. Now, I want you to pull back gently on the wheel to help level off your descent. Do you copy, David? Pull back on the wheel. David?
It won't move.
Remember that hydraulic line that Phil shot? This is what it operates. It's supposed to tilt the rear wings to lift the plane's nose so they touch the ground at the right angle. It's not working.
Now look at the elevator hydraulic pressure gauge. It's on the engineering panel behind you.
650.
It says 650.
Say again, David.
650.
Should read about 3,000 pounds. He doesn't have a chance.
There's nothing they can do but have him keep trying to pull the yoke back, even though they just verified that he doesn't have the hydraulic pressure to make it happen. It almost sounds like our pilot is giving him busy work to distract him until they crash.
He's going to crash before he gets to the end of the runway.
David, try again quickly.
14 will come down short of the runway.
To pull up. Get a few people helping you pull on it. Try anything.
Help me.
Keep trying, David. If you can't get the nose up, you are not going to make it. David, do you read? Columbia 14, this is Denver Center. Do you read? Please acknowledge Columbia 14. Please acknowledge. David, can you hear me? You're falling further below the glide slope.
You're making this too chaotic, dude. You're bellowing the same thing over and over while he's trying to concentrate on pulling back, and we know what happens next, so let's get on with it.
You've got to get the nose up. David, please acknowledge.
Get out! The good news is, when he changes to the Hulk, he's strong enough to pull the yoke back, and he don't need no stinking hydraulics.
Hold her level. Hold her level and pull back on the wheel. Pull back.
All units, stand by. He's over the fence.
Keep fighting it, David. You're drifting to the left. You're drifting to the left. You've got to get back on it. Stay in control. Don't lose control, David. All right, David. Now get ready to flare it out like I told you. Stay in control. Here it comes. Now, pull back hard. Now. David, now, pull back.
14's on the deck.
As I said, but now he needs to reverse the engines, lean on the brakes, and stop the plane. The Hulk doesn't know how to do any of that. He does know this voice is putting way too many words into his ears, and he has to take the headset off.
Pull up on the front of the throttle.
Who are you? Where's
Pull
David?
up on the front of the throttle. You've got to
We gotta
reverse the
stop
gates
it.
on the engine, David.
The brake. Down there. Press on the brake. Press on the brakes harder.
The throttle beside you, David. Pull up on the front of the throttle. You've got to reverse the gates. Pull up on the front of the throttle. Reverse the gates.
I'm sure Kevin is smart enough that he'll eventually figure out that this is David. He's also smart enough to keep it to himself. Between the two of them, they get the plane stopped.
Press harder.
Pull up on the front of the throttle.
That uninhabited beacon hut was the only casualty. A couple of electronics geeks wanted to hold a wake for it, but the airport said no. Kevin, say hello to your new dad. But now that the Hulk can see he's almost on the ground, he's ready to get the rest of the way there. Mr. Leggett thought he didn't like being in the air.
You see?
We end with David missing his chance to talk to the doctor. But check back 3 months from now and you'll have his undivided interest. That nurse says, "Where will you be?" Asking him that is kind of like asking, "How long is a piece of string?" He doesn't know where he'll be 3 days from now, never mind 3 months. Speaking of 3 months, that was about how long the investigation took. Stephanie confessed everything and rolled over on Phil. He's still in prison. Stephanie divorced him and married the air traffic controller. NTSB investigators were skeptical when Kevin told them he landed the plane, but when Denise backed him up, their report recommended that somebody get this kid into pilot school now. Several airlines contacted him, so he held an auction. The bidding went high enough that he flew for a few years just for fun, and then retired at 25, after which he and Denise lived happily ever after. Can probably use the vitamin. David isn't show control. Assumes the flight can wake up in time to keep good. Slow down. Didn't tell her how. Didn't tilt the rear wings to wings. After which he and Delete didn't. Oh, come on! I was there.